Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodha Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodha Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodha Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodha Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodha Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivraja Kacharja Astottara Sadasri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda Ki Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Sakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakun Radha Kund Giri Govardhana Ki Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki Ganga Mai Ki Yamuna Mai Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Tulsi Maharani Ki Samaveta Bhaktavrinda Ki. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaura Premanande Hare. Hare Krishna. So this morning we are continuing the reading of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 7, the sacrifice performed by Daksha, and we will be reading text number 29. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Rudra Uvacha Tava Varada Vara Angrao Ashisha Iha Akila Arte Hi Api Munibhi Ashaktai Adarena Arhaniye Yadi Rachitadiyam Ma Avidyaloka Apavidham Japati Naganaye Tat Tvatpara Anugrahena. Anybody know the meter? Is it Brahma Sanghita? Rudra Uvacha Tava Varada Varangrov Ashisheha Kilarta. Tava Varada Varangrov Ashisheha Kilarta. Hyapi Muni Bhirashaktair Adharena Harhaniye. Yadirachita diyamma vidyaloka pavidham Japatina ganayeta tvatparanugrahena Rudra uvacha Tavavarada Tavavarada varangrav ashisheha kilarta Hyapi muni bhirashaktair adharena haraniye Yadi rachita diyamma vidyaloka pavidham Japatina ganayetatvat paranugrahena Rudra uvacha Tava varadavara varangrav ashishehe kilarta Hyapi munibhir ashaktair adharena harhaniye Yadi rachita diyamma vidyaloka pavidham Japatina ganayetatvat paranugrahena Rudra vacha Word for word, Rudra Uvacha, Lord Shiva said, Tava, your Varada, O Supreme Benefactor, Vara Angrao, precious lotus feet, Ashisha, by desire, Iha, in the material world, Akila Arte, for fulfillment, Hi Api, certainly, Munibhi, by the sages, Ashaktai, liberated, Adarena, with care, Arhaniye, worshipable, Yadi, if, Rachita Diyam, mind fixed, Ma, me, Avidyaloka, the ignorant persons, Apavidham, unpurified activity, Japati, utters, Naganaye, do not value, Tat, it, Tvat para anugrahena, by compassion like yours. Translation. Lord Shiva said, my dear Lord, my mind and consciousness are always fixed on your lotus feet, which, as the source of all benediction and the fulfillment of all desires, are worshipped by all liberated great sages, because your lotus feet are worthy of worship. With my mind fixed on your lotus feet, I am no longer disturbed by persons who blaspheme me, claiming that my activities are not purified. I do not mind their accusations, and I excuse them out of compassion. Just as you exhibit compassion toward all living entities. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Lord Shiva expresses herein his regret at having been angry and having disturbed the sacrificial activities of Daksha. King Daksha had insulted him in many ways, and thus he had become angry and had frustrated the entire sacrificial ceremony. Later, when he was pleased, the yagya performances were reinstituted, and therefore he regretted his activities. Now he says that because his mind is fixed on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord Vishnu, he is no longer disturbed by the ordinary critics of his way of life. From this statement by Lord Shiva, it is understood that as long as one is on the material platform, one is affected by the three modes of material nature. As soon as one is in Krishna consciousness, however, one is no longer affected by such material activities. One should therefore always be fixed in Krishna consciousness, busy in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. It is guaranteed that such a devotee will never be affected by the actions and reactions of the three modes of material nature. This fact is also corroborated in Bhagavad Gita. Anyone who is fixed in the transcendental service of the Lord has surpassed all the material qualities and is situated in the status of Brahman realization. in which one is not afflicted by hankering for material objects. The recommendation of the Srimad Bhagavatam is that one should always be Krishna conscious and should never forget his transcendental relationship with the Lord. This program has to be followed strictly by everyone. From the statement of Lord Shiva, it is understood that he was always in Krishna consciousness, and thus he remained free from material affliction. The only remedy, therefore, is to continue Krishna consciousness rigidly in order to get out of the contamination of the material modes. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jaina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Shtapitam Jaina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deen Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Taptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharyane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Translation again. Lord Shiva said, "My dear Lord, my mind and consciousness are always fixed on your lotus feet, which, as the source of all benediction and the fulfillment of all desires, are worshipped by all liberated great sages, because your lotus feet are worthy of worship. With my mind fixed on your lotus feet, I am no longer disturbed by persons who blaspheme me, claiming that my activities are not purified. I do not mind their accusations, and I excuse them out of compassion, just as you exhibit compassion toward all living entities." Lord Narayan has appeared in the sacrifice of Daksha after Daksha's rehabilitation. And when the Lord manifests himself in any particular yajna, sacrifice, that clearly and very vividly, without any doubt, establishes the success of that performance of sacrifice that the Lord has manifested. One may perform sacrifice for so many purposes, so many types of purposes. But the Lord's manifestation as the culmination of the sacrifice means that all purposes have been fulfilled. All purposes have been attained. Because what more can there be outside the presence of Krishna? What purposes can there be? Like Srila Prabhupada says, if you have $100, then all your $5 needs are taken care of automatically. So yes, people perform sacrifices, austerities to get certain results. And if by the grace of the great devotees and by the sweet will of Krishna, he manifests before someone performing austerity and sacrifice, then that is more than enough, way more than enough. However, although Krishna is manifesting all the time, readily manifesting before any spiritualist's eyes actually, they do not have the eyes purified with scriptural intelligence, with intelligence honed and sharpened by sadhana and a pure lifestyle, to appreciate that Krishna is all that I need in my life to satisfy me in all respects. To satisfy me in all respects. Here in the verse, Lord Shiva is saying that that great devotees are worshipping your lotus feet because they are worthy of worship. Even though those same lotus feet are the source of all benediction and fulfillment of all desires. What's the word used? Vara Angrav. The fulfillment of all desires is found at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we can approach, this is an interesting test for us. We can approach Krishna's lotus feet to have all our desires fulfilled, to get all benedictions that we want, because it is there. Those lotus feet that we see on the altar of Radhanath, they can give you everything you desire. You simply meditate on those two beautiful lotus feet and it'll happen. Whatever you want. For us, the question is, what do we want? That is the question. What do we want? But Lord Shiva is saying, I approach your lotus feet. I fix my mind and consciousness on your lotus feet because they are worthy of worship. Not just because they are the source of all fulfillment of all desires. That is not the point. The point is, those are the Lord's lotus feet. The Lord is worthy of worship. His lotus feet are worthy of worship. So immediately Lord Shiva is dispelling the difference between someone who approaches the Lord for some external gain as opposed to someone, a devotee like him, who's simply approaching the Lord to please the Lord. And when one has that consciousness, like Lord Shiva has, one can see how Lord Shiva engages in the world. On one hand, due to deep familial affection for Sati, Lord Shiva became enraged because of the insults laid at him and how it affected Sati to the point that she gave up her life. And thus he ordered his hordes of followers headed by Virabhadra to go and destroy the sacrifice and ultimately punish Daksha, killed Daksha, beheaded him. And now, after being pacified by the various demigods headed by Lord Brahma, participating in the sacrifice, becoming equipoised, he's expressing his regret here. He's expressing his regret for acting in that way. And he makes such important points in just this one verse, that because my mind is fixed on your lotus feet, I am no longer disturbed by anyone who blasphemes me. This is such an important telling point for us as devotees, that naturally we find, as practicing devotees, we get disturbed by so many things along the way, every day. What's the first thing that disturbed you today? Alarm clocks? Anything disturbed you all? Anyone's alarm clock disturbed you all? Right? It disturbed us. I had this, oh my God, this alarm clock. the window wasn't near enough, to throw it out. So we get disturbed. It's so many steps of the way, right? Then, you may have woken up a little later than everyone else and there's no hot water because the geyser is done. You got disturbed there. And immediately our mind went to one particular person who we know always spends too much of time in the shower, and we think, that person, sure, if only I got up before that person. Anybody thought like that? Don't think like that. Huh? Don't. Y'all are so pure. So pure. Yeah. And then the water suddenly got cut off. And Segi, why didn't Segi sort that water out? He should have known to go and turn on the borehole. What's wrong with him? We can get disturbed by so many little things. So when we do get disturbed, when we do get upset, what is that indicating? That my mind and consciousness is not fixed on the lotus feet of Krishna. Brahma bhuta prasannatma na shochati na kangshati. Prabhupada is quoting, referring to that verse. That when one is fixed in his identity as spirit, completely detached, nothing to do with the three modes of material nature, what is one's natural disposition? Brahma bhuta prasannatma. That atma is very prasanna, very joyful. But what is that joyfulness also another characteristic of being joyful, having one's mind and consciousness fixed on Krishna? What is the practical characteristic of it? Na sochati, na kangshati. One is not hankering and one is not lamenting. Very, very important. Hankering and lamenting. And as devotees living in an ashram or devotees watching online at home, we can consider these points very carefully. We'll come to the next one, which is also the next phrase in that Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter. Which one is it? 54. Brahma bhuta prasannatma na sochati na kangshati sama sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. So we can consider how we can identify ourselves, measure ourselves every day. How easily distracted am I? How easily disturbed am I? And even I may be disturbed, but do I have the presence of mind to know that I'm disturbed? Sometimes when you're in full flight of disturbance, you don't realize it, right? But we draw the mind and consciousness back to Krishna. When we can identify and recognize, I have been disturbed, okay, I need to stop. Let's draw it back. Sometimes we won't even realize it. It'll take some good instruction, some good advice, some intervention from others, and then we should realize, hey, this is not good. Let me draw my mind back. And even sometimes after that, we don't realize it until it's quote-unquote too late. And even then, we try to, oh, no, it's okay. I have my reasons. We can validate why I got upset with this situation or that situation. No. But if we are constantly applying our mind and consciousness at the lotus feet of Krishna, especially in the mood of Lord Shiva, for no other purpose other than to worship those lotus feet, because they are worthy of worship, and not forgetting what I need to get ahead, better facility, better arrangements to make myself more comfortable in my life, both grossly or subtly. No, but simply that the Lord lotus feet is worthy of worship. So we do not hanker, we do not lament, we do not get disturbed. And sama sarveshu bhuteshu, we are equally disposed to all living beings, to all living entities. We do not pick and choose friends and enemies. We do not do that. We are equally disposed. Here Lord Shiva is presenting his equanimity, that he is no longer disturbed by anyone who blasphemes him. Anyone who blasphemes him. He does not mind their accusation and he excuses them. There's two reasons implicitly mentioned here why he excuses these persons. One is because he is favorably disposed to everyone. He's fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord. But also he mentions, just as you exhibit compassion toward all living entities. Which entity in all of creation, in all of existence, is the most disrespected entity? In all of creation, in all of time. Who is the person that's most disrespected? Krishna, the Supreme Lord, is the most disrespected person, isn't it? How many people are just turning their heads away from him at every moment of the day? So many living entities. Even after they are, punished for it or try to be corrected, they still don't get it. They've experienced what the situation, but they still don't get it. Pashyanapi na pashyati. Even though being sufficiently experienced about disrespecting Krishna, by living it up in the material world, they still don't get it and they turn the other way. But Krishna, being the most disrespected, the most blasphemed entity of all time, of all places, how does he respond? He always exhibits his compassion. So Lord Shiva is sort of saying here that you are so compassionate, you are the ultimate sama sarveshu bhuteshu, equally disposed at all times. Can't I do the same? For me, one small jiva, can't I exhibit that with just those in my immediate circle? Right? Krishna is doing it to his entire circle. And what is his entire circle? All parts and parcels. So our reciprocation to Krishna would be to exhibit similarly. Sama sarveshu bhuteshu, to be favorably, to be equally disposed. And not just equally disposed, like Krishna is to all his devotees, he is especially favorably disposed to them. So in our circle, in our existence, we are equally disposed to all living entities. We do not take exception to any blasphemy. This is a tall order. We don't have much time to get into the other perspectives of it, but the principle is there from what Lord Shiva is saying. We should be equally disposed. And at the same time, in our circle amongst us, those devotees, those personalities that we interact with on a regular basis, imitate Krishna in the sense that he is favorably disposed to everyone. Favorably disposed. This is very, very important. Very important. For us. So, when we do find ourselves getting disturbed, it would be nice if we have some people have these techniques. When they're getting a little angry, they have a rubber band on their wrist and they pull it and it stings them. Hey, let me stop that now, let me calm down, count to 10 or sing one song or something, I don't know, to just calm the nerves. So we should have some reminder that we are getting disturbed and I need to recalibrate, turn my mind, turn my focus back to Krishna. This is very, very important. The only remedy, as Prabhupada says, is to continue Krishna consciousness. How? How does Prabhupada say we must continue our Krishna consciousness? Rigidly. Not in a flexible way, not in an adjustable way, but here Prabhupada is very pointed. One must do it rigidly. Rigidly. Pashana Rekha. Our program of Krishna consciousness must be Pashana Rekha. You know what Pashana Rekha is? Like lines etched in stone. Pashana Rekha. Rekha means lines. Pashan means a rock or stone. That's how we must be fixed. Because our minds are so all over the place, isn't it? Chanchalahi mana Krishna, so disturbed here, there, everywhere, even in the space of 10 seconds. I heard that in 24 hours, the mind goes through 60,000 thoughts. I don't know how anybody could count to 60,000, let alone 1,000. It's so like, 60,000 thoughts in 24 hours. So our minds go all over the place. It's just all over the place. And the process of mantra meditation, Krishna consciousness, is to control the mind, to regulate the mind. How does one regulate the mind? This uncontrolled, effervescent type of mind that's here, there, everywhere, popping up here, popping up there. How does one do it? You bring it under control. How? If the mind is so disturbed, how do you bring it? Abhyas, yoga, yuktena. By regulation, by practice, and detachment. By detachment. One cannot regulate the mind through sadhana if one is not practicing detachment. One cannot detach the mind from material sense objects if one is not practicing regulation. It has to go hand in hand. So, based on regulation, rigidly means fix our program. Doing the same thing, like Prabhupada calls rigidly, he calls it our routine work. You may have seen that phrase somewhere. Prabhupada talks about routine work. In other words, we follow a routine. The same thing at the same time every day. That's what brings your mind under control. Because the mind is so crazy all over the place, you need to hold it down to something, hold it down to a routine. That's why we have sadhana. So when we are able to do that, and we practice detachment, we know what is beneficial, what is not beneficial. We know what is uplifting and what is degrading. And we avoid anything that's not beneficial and anything that's degraded. We avoid it. We look the other way. And we don't court it. We don't flirt with it even. You can look but you can't touch. No, we don't even look. We don't flirt. Don't flirt with Maya. Maya doesn't like to be flirted with. Right? So we're very cautious, we detach, very careful to detach, and we regulate. And when one has that focus, of course, with the central goal that I am doing this to develop my to develop in my consciousness an attraction for Krishna's lotus feet. And when one continuously does that, one becomes joyful because one slowly uncovers one's identity as Jivatma, spirit soul. One will become detached from all situations, no hankering, no lamenting. And one's interactions with everyone will be very pleasing. And then, we do not get disturbed. We do not get disturbed in any way. And then from that platform actually, can one really, in the truest spirit, engage in pure devotional service. That's what's required. That is actually what's required. This is what Bhagavad Gita says. Sagunan samatityata brahma bhuyaya kalpate. This is what's required from that level. What we are doing in bhakti is a practice to get to that level. To get to that level. That's what we do. So when we do get disturbed, when we do get frustrated, when we do utter it, we should realize, hey, I'm progressing to that point of pure devotional service, but now I've slipped down a few rungs on the ladder. I need to climb back up. So we must be constantly cautious. So how we do that? How are we constantly cautious? We don't give ourselves time for anything else but focusing the mind on Krishna, Krishna's lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada chalked out, he said, I've chalked out a program that captures the mind of the devotee. All the time, morning, noon, and night. So we should be very eager to have our mind fixed, have our consciousness fixed, physically, subtly, in all ways, just fixed on Krishna's service, in Krishna's remembrance. And then we'll come to appreciate more and more how Lord Shiva is so cautious not to become disturbed. So cautious not to become disturbed. So I'll stop here. Are there any questions or comments? Yes, Jai Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for that nice presentation. You mentioned about anchoring and lamenting, but can these be dovetailed in devotional service? Sometimes we, in spiritual, we can anchor and lament. Is it wrong to?
Yeah, everything, all emotions that we experience on the material platform has its perfection, its unadulterated manifestation spiritually. So hankering and lamenting is very much part of the emotional state of a devotee who is thoroughly purified and very enthusiastically practicing in devotional service. That a devotee, when they legitimately hanker and lament, they hanker for Krishna's mercy. They hanker for more opportunities to think of Krishna, more opportunities to be engaged in Krishna's service. And then they lament not to have those opportunities. Not to have those opportunities. So when one starts to feel that way, not that we have to feel good about it, hey, I'm developing hankering and lamenting spiritually, but others will see that. Others will see that. So yeah, when we identify devotees who are like that, they hanker for more and more opportunity to serve Krishna. They lament when there isn't enough opportunity to serve Krishna. They lament that their situation is not facilitating their service to Krishna more and more. Then we should run to those devotees and pray to get infected with a similar disposition. Sometimes devotees, I've been told this, sometimes devotees, they, on whatever level they're at, they calculate what looks good for my CV. How does it look in my social standing if I am, doing too much of devotional service? And I've heard how some devotees have been advised, don't do too much. Don't do too much. And it's true, we should be reasonable. We have to work within our capacities. Don't give too much of donations to Krishna consciousness. I've heard those advices being given. It's quite something. How could you ever come to a point of not doing too much? How could you ever come to a point of doing too much for Krishna? So yes, the point is, we must be reasonable with our capacity and not become irresponsible. But at the same time, we must be eager. And that eagerness, I tell you devotees, will inspire Krishna. Will inspire Krishna to make so much more facility, physically, intelligently, mentally, emotionally, financially, possible for us to do more. He'll make it available. Krishna is the fulfiller of all desires. His lotus feet, vara anagrav, angrav, vara angrav, fulfiller of all desires. So if we have these spiritual desires to please Krishna, why wouldn't Krishna fulfill them? But we must want to have those desires. We must develop those desires by detachment and by our sadhana. Those things support it. And then hankering, lamenting will come naturally. So yes, associate with those devotees who have this disposition, who you see are ready to just put their hands up. Yes, I'm available. I'd love to do it. Not that they have to be asked, Prabhu, you know what, can you please, just come for a few minutes? No. They don't have to be asked. And those types of devotees, you'll find, they attract the attention of Krishna. They'll attract the attention of Krishna. We hear so many times about Jayananda Prabhu. You all may have heard of Jayananda Prabhu, the great saint of Srila Prabhupada's ISKCON. How he would be so fixed on doing his service to Srila Prabhupada. He was like the temple president, but he was driving a cab to support the temple. He gave Prabhupada the first big donation for, I don't know which book, was it Teachings of Lord Chaitanya? Anyway, one of the books, $5,000 or something, way back in the late 60s, $5,000 is. But he would do his service, and whenever he walked into a room, Prabhupada's giving class, you could see Prabhupada would just focus on him, just attracted Prabhupada so much. So this was his mood. The way we attract the attention of the spiritual master, attention of Lord Chaitanya, the attention of Radha and Krishna, is to be enthusiastic to do service, to hanker for service, and not to make plans how I can adjust to not do service so that I can have free time all the time, so I can be free. Of course, if one wants to be free to really focus on your hearing and chanting, thinking about Krishna, preaching, that's wonderful. But we must be honest about it. This is the important thing. So hankering, lamenting, wonderful emotions to aspire for, to hanker more and more for Krishna's service and to lament that I don't have enough. You should just associate with Jai Sachinandan Prabhu. He's always hankering and lamenting. We need more cars, we need more drivers so we can go out and preach and collect donations for the temple. Always hankering. Anyone else?
What? Sorry, I'm hogging the... you mentioned about having material desires. But when I heard this verse in the Bhagavatam, I figured the reference, maybe it can help me. Akama sarva kamova mokshaka. I saw that very reassuring that, although we may have become with so many agendas to devotional service, performing, but in the end, and also in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, and the 4 types of persons approaching. Chaturvida bhajanti bam, arthati jignasu. And they all eventually, they give example of classic personalities who got purified from just coming with that agenda, desiring some material.
Yeah, akama sarva kamava moksha karma udaridi tivrena bhakti yogena yajita purusham param. Whatever one state of consciousness is, no desires, full of desires, like that.
Even the desire for liberation.
Moksha karma, even the desire for liberation, one should serve Krishna. So that's true, that's all and well and good, but we know that. And we know that we should develop spiritual desires. We should not use that verse as a validation for our material desires. It's okay, I'm coming with my material desires. According to that verse, I'm here practicing Krishna consciousness. Krishna, please fulfill my desire in this material way. Because we intellectually know it now, we know we shouldn't be cultivating material desires. What's one of the offenses to the holy name we chant every day? One should not maintain material desires even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is okay to have the material desire because that's what it is. We in this material world, it means they are material desires. But if we go to Krishna to maintain and facilitate material desires, yes, it's true. According to that verse, we will be purified eventually, but it's not the most pleasing way for Krishna to purify us. It's not the most pleasing way. We should at the same time be determined to get rid of these material desires by replacing these material desires with spiritual desires, spiritual activities. We have to work on that. So that verse, yes, it shows the magnanimity of Krishna, the all merciful nature of devotional service. It's all accepting, all types of persons Krishna will accept. But we as practicing devotees, especially those taking initiation, making a stand, in a sense, to cultivate spiritual desires, a spiritual way of life. When material desires come up, quick to identify it and not fall into those parts of the scripture that show how merciful, devotional. It's okay, I have this material desire. Krishna will be okay with it. It's true. But in a sense, there's a subtle mood of, I would say, taking advantage of it, of Krishna's merciful nature, like that. All right, if there's nothing else, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaura Premanande.